My name is Ann King. I am the owner of decorcreations.etsy.com, and I'm here today to show you how to make a pumpkin out of an old sweater. So to begin with, you're going to cut off your sweater sleeve. Once you've done that, you want to get a zip tie, and my zip tie is, it's about 12 inches long. You're going to turn your sweater sleeve inside out and put it back down on your table with the seam facing up. Smooth everything out. And then you want to start the zip on your zip tie, but don't pull it closed just yet. Turn the sweater, bring it down till it's about an inch above your cut line. And then you want to fold that back so that on each edge you don't have a big fold over, you have more of a gather that you can just pinch together. And this will make it look prettier and more natural on the outside. And then tighten your zip tie just as tight as you can. Then, using a scissors or a cutters, you want to cut this zip tie off as close to the little block that's on the zip tie as you can. Get rid of that, it's junk. Now you're going to reach back inside the sleeve and turn the sleeve right side out again. Kind of shake it down a little bit. Fold it back. And then you need some dried beans. I chose to use the dried pinto beans that I bought at Walmart for around $7 for 8 pounds. You use quite a lot of them, so you don't want to spend any more on your beans than you have to. I wouldn't recommend anything smaller than these pinto beans, because if you do, they're going to try and push between the knitting on your sweater sleeve, and that won't be very attractive. So I am using a 1/3 cup measure, and I am going to put about 20 of these into this sweater if I have enough. So just start dumping them in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not going to have enough, so let's see how many I end up with. It'll just be a smaller pumpkin this way. 12, 13, 14, 15. So I will show you 2 pumpkins that I've already made using this method. So it turns out what I'm going to get out of 8 pounds of beans is 3 pumpkins. All right. Now that we filled our pumpkin with beans, kind of manipulate it until you've got a nice round shape. You don't need it really tight or really snug on the beans because you want it to be a little bit flexible. But then you're going to take another zip tie you're going to go around this, start your zip tie, and then you want to kind of work it down while you pull up on the sleeve and push down on the zip tie. And when you're happy with the shape of your pumpkin, go ahead and pull your zip tie tight. Again, you want to pull that as tight as you possibly can, and then snip it off as close as you can. Just be careful not to snip the sweater. All right. Now we have to decide if we want a long stem or a short stem. I think for this one, I'd like a stem that's about 2 inches high. So what I'm going to do to make wrapping the stem easier is I'm going to go ahead and cut off at about 3 inches. And just throw that away. Now, you can secure the end of your twine, and what you want is a nice jute cord. This is a 4-ply number 72. I picked this up at Walmart, back in the little crafting department. So you can just tie a knot, leaving about a 6-inch end. The reason for that is you want to be able to get your jute right below your zip tie, at least where the little knob is. Then tie it tight as you can, double that knot, pull it good and tight, and then as you wind around, you're going to hold it up here so that it's completely hidden by the twine as you work your way around your pumpkin. And now you're just going to pull twine and wind. Go around, keeping your jute as close together as you climb up the stem as possible. There will be a little gap at the bottom when you first start because of the knob on the twist tie, but that's okay because you'll be adding leaves and flowers and no one's going to notice that at all. So just keep coming around, keeping tension on your twine so that it doesn't move around. You can try going back to cover up your knot, but I haven't had much success with that, so I don't recommend the effort. You can turn your pumpkin, or you can just wind your twine. Pull your twine tight, pull it tight. You just want to keep pulling it tight. You want it to stay wrapped on top of the sweater with no gaps in between. If you get a gap, just back up, pull your sweater out, and start up again. Once I've gone about 1 inch or 1.5 inches up this excess sweater, I'm going to go ahead and cut off this piece of twine that we have left over from the knot, because that way I've gone up high enough to hold it in place. You don't want it slipping back out the bottom. Just snip it off. And keep twisting your twine. So we're going to go about another inch. Oops, see there, I let it separate. So I'm going to back up a couple lines and correct that so I don't have an opening there. This is your stem, so you want to be very careful that you keep it just with the twine showing, because you're not going to have color in your stem. Okay. Once I've got up far enough that I think I'm going to like the height, which is, again, 2 inches. You can go higher and make a bent stem like I did over here. That's about 5 inches. But on this one, I just wanted a short stem. All right. Then you want to hold your twine tight. Tip your leftover sweater, get your hot glue, and put a short line of hot glue right on that sweater above the twine. Then you're going to pull the twine across that glue and hold it there until your glue is set. Now, as far as glue goes, I sometimes use the Gorilla Glue sticks, but I actually prefer the industrial strength glue sticks that are sold at DecoExchange.com. The reason I like them is because it doesn't take as much glue. Use is the industrial strength glue that is sold at DecoExchange.com. The reason for that is because it has sturdier holes. It doesn't rip as much out of my glue gun as other glue sticks do, and I just don't use as much of it. So I like being secure with the stronger grip it has, and I really don't like wasting it, having it drip off my glue gun. So that's why I prefer it. Now we have got our stem glued in place. Our twine has been glued to the sweater. And now we want to trim down the sweater top, because this is it's going to add another inch or two to what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to cut this about a 1/2 inch above the top of my twine. Okay. Now this part you want to be careful so you don't burn yourself. What I do is I put a blob of glue in the center, and it's going to be about that big. Then I'm going to wait just a little bit for it to cool off. It'll still be warm to the touch when I work with it, so it'll still stick. I don't want to do it right this second because it's still hot enough to burn me. If you want, there are plastic fingers that you can buy that go over the tip of your finger about past your second knuckle, and they're supposed to be burn proof. I prefer not to use anything like that because I like to be able to feel the texture of everything I'm working with, and you can't feel as good through a rubber tip. However, for something like this, it would probably be helpful. Now I'm going to test it. I'm going to start squeezing it together. Just going around the edges. And if it's not burning me, I'll keep going. If it's still hot enough to burn, I'll stop. Right now, it's still hot enough to burn if I get right in it. So I'm just going to hold my edges up and wait a little bit longer for the glue to cool off. Glue from a glue gun gets extremely hot. And if you get a good blob on yourself, you're going to get a burn blister. I've got scars all over my hands from dripping glue on myself. So you really don't want to do that. It's not fun. A lot of people I know that craft, you keep a cup of ice water on their desktop. So that now at this point, my glue is cool enough that if I get it on my fingers, it's not going to burn. So I'm going to try pushing all this together and squishing the edges of the sweater down and into it as best I can. It's going to be messy looking. It's not going to matter because we're going to wind more twine around it. You just want to make sure and hold it long enough that the glue is sticking. If you get a little bit like this, making a big blob up there, go ahead and snip it off. Don't pull it off because you'll pull it out of the areas where it's stuck into your sweater and then you'll have to start over again. Now I'm going to hold that until it's totally cool because I want to make sure it doesn't come apart. Okay, now I'm going back to my twine. Remember, we glued it on here. So now we're just going to continue winding and squeezing. Keep it as snug as you can get it. Keep it on top of itself so that you have a continuous line. Gets a little tricky up here because you have to kind of start coiling in on itself. So when you start getting near the top, add a little dab of glue again. And you're going to put your twine on that and hold it there until it dries. Just again, be careful you don't stick your thumb or your finger into it because it does hurt. You don't want to use the cool glue gun for this because you're not going to get enough adhesion. So just gotta wait till it cools down enough. Then I'm gonna kind of rub it off my finger. Stick it on. And keep coiling. Now, as you move to the top, you're gonna have to add more glue once you're on the very top. So again, you're gonna put glue. You're gonna let it cool down enough that you can manage it without burning your fingers. And carefully wind it around the top. What I'm doing here is I'm hanging on to the outer edge of the twine, trying to keep my finger out of the glue because it's still hot enough to burn. I'm not going to clip this twine until I'm closer to the last because I don't want to run out of twine at the very last second and have to add in 2 more ends to it. Now see how it popped back up because my glue's still hot. That's okay. I'll put it back on again. And I'm just going to keep coiling this and coiling this until you can't see the center. Now I only need a little more of this twine to finish it. Now I'm going to cut it off. Then I can bend it over into that last little space. My glue is now cool enough to hold in place. I'm going to hold my finger on it until it's nice and cool and I feel like it's set. Okay, there we go. It's nice and set. Okay. Now you might have a little bit of glue that dropped down. Now that it's dry, you can try and peel it off. Don't ever try and get it off the sweater while it's still wet because all you're going to get is a big smear of glue that won't come off. But once it's all dry, then you can usually just pick it off. Okay, now you see over here where I've got this spot where I couldn't get over the hump of my zip tie with twine. And then I've got another little spot right here where it separated on me while it was gluing. So what I'm going to do there, I'm not going to worry about the lump at the bottom. But I am going to turn my pumpkin sideways. I'm going to put a little dab of glue over that dried glue. Then I'm going to cut a piece that is longer than that space, because I want to be able to hold down on it without burning myself. So I'm going to line this up, holding the two ends of the twine, go over that, pull down hard, and wait till it dries. Once it dries, I'll snip the ends off, and you won't even notice what I've done. Once we finish this part, I will show you how to attach your leaves, flowers, whatever else you'd like to put on your pumpkin to make it pretty. Right now I'm working with flowers. Sometimes when I have acorns, I use acorns or pine cones. There's all kinds of little things you can use. There are the colored little beads you can pick up at your craft store and put little bits of that on. All kinds of things. Whatever suits your fancy and makes it look cute to you. All right. It's almost dry. I'm going to let it sit just another minute, and I'm going to show you how I get my leaves. What I've got here is a floral that is seeded purple and little tiny blooms of purple flowers. I'm sorry I don't know what this is called because I've already used part of it, and the part I used is what had the tag on it, but I did pick it up at Hobby Lobby, and they've had it for a couple of years now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still have it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this purple flower here. I picked this up really cheap at Walmart. And it has what we call slidable flowers. Because if I want to slide my flowers closer together on a stem, which is got wire inside it so I can bend and shape it, I can just slide it up till it meets the other flower. Then I'm going to cut it off I use a mini wire cutter, and there's also this kind that works well. I prefer my red one because I think it cuts better. I'm only going to leave about 1/2 inch because I'm going to stick it down in the sweater, and I don't want to have to stick it in more than 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead and cut off 4 or 5 of these so I have them ready to go. And once again, I'm going to try sliding up. Now on this one, not only do I have leaves I can slide up, but I have another flower I can slide up. So I'm going to slide that up, and then I think I want to add some more leaves to it. So there we go. Again, I'm only cutting it about 1/4 inch. And in fact, I might cut this one a couple inches in case I decide I want a tall flower. And once again, I'm sliding up and cutting off. I can always make it shorter. I can't make it longer. That's why I prefer to try and cut it a little bit shorter than I think I'm going to, a little bit longer, sorry, than what I think I'm going to want, because that way I have room to change it up a little bit if I want to. And maybe one more. I'm also going to go to a stem that I've already cut flowers off and just take leaves off. I'm just going to push them all the way up until they come off, because these look kind of like pumpkin leaves. And I want to be able to just put some leaves around the base of my stem. So that's all of that for now. In order to glue this on, I'm just going to hold my leaves together, take this little part here that's at the base. If you could do a close-up of this, please. Take a little bit of this base and just put a blob of glue on it. Then I'm going to stick that right down here. And the place I'm sticking it right now is right in front of that little knob on the zip tie that I don't want anybody looking at. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick one on the other side, doing the same thing. I'm going to hold my leaves, put a little blob of glue on it, and glue it right up next to the stem. The idea is to get it close enough that nobody is looking at the glue or seeing the glue that I've used to put on it. Now this is dry enough that I can go ahead and take my scissors and trim off these little extra edges of twine that I don't want to leave on. There you go. Now I'm going to take this flower. I'm going to bend it forward just a little bit like this. If you can see the bend in front of my hand. And then I'm going to cut it off about 1/2 inch below that bend. Hold my leaves up. Get a little glue on the bottom. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to find a hole really close to my stem in my knit and just push down inside that. I'm going to hold it up for a minute because I want it to be up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with this one. Again, cutting about 1/4 inch below the bend. Putting glue on it. Finding a hole. Sticking the stem right down inside it. Now I want to have some of these flowers sticking out further. So I'm going to leave the stem about 1.5 inches long. And right above the first set of leaves, I'm going to bend this up just a little bit. Because when I push it in, I want my flowers to stand up, not lay down. So again, a little dab of glue at the end. Up near the stem, I'm going to find a hole. I'm going to stick it in and let my flowers lay down like that. I'm going to do that again, a little bit further around. Again, I've got a small bend in it. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the end. Then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go right up by my stem, stick it right in a hole. And there we go. I've got one more nice little bunch that I want to push in. I already cut this short enough, so I just need to add a little bit of glue. And then I'll go right up by the stem, stick it in a hole, and go in sideways once it starts to go in. There you go. Now, isn't that pretty? But we're not done. We still want to add a little bit of this. That looks, you know, the seed pods on it. And I think we'll start with just pulling off one that has got 3 or 4 little seed pods on it. I'm going to start by having one of them lean out over here. So I don't want to cut too much more off the stem. I want it to be about 1 inch long. Add your glue. Hold back your leaf so you can see right up against your stem and stick it straight in. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to put a couple more of those. And then we'll decide if we want to put some flowers on from this bunch. About 1 inch long. A little bit of glue. Pull back your leaf. Stick it right down in there. Sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate. So we're going to take it out. Where it's bent, it's not going to be real strong for me. So I'll cut off that little part. Add some more glue. And see if I can find another spot that'll work out for me. There we go. Now I don't want to stick my fingers in that hot glue, so I'm going to take this needle nose pliers. I'm going to grab this way down low, and I'm going to use that to push it in the rest of the way, because that way I'm not going to burn myself. Once this is good and dry, I can adjust the way my seed pods are falling. Again, I want another piece of seed pod. I'm going to trim it off, leaving about an inch. Add some glue. And go around. Now let me show you. I dropped a blob of glue off that right onto my sweater. Right here. We don't want to wipe that smeared or touch it until it's dry. Once it's dry, we'll be able to peel it right off and you'll never know it was there. Now I think we can use a little bit of flour from this one. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off at about an inch. I'm going to cut one of these. And probably one more. If you notice, a lot of times we work in thirds. We use 3 pieces instead of even numbers of pieces. For some reason, pieces just tend to look a little more balanced if you use 3, 5, whatever, odd numbers when you're adding stuff. Now I need another glue stick. This is an industrial strength glue stick. And stick it in and it'll start melting and pushing the old glue on through. Go up under here, find a spot. And I want to go in at an angle. Just like that. I think I need to go in a little bit further. Here we go. Glue strings, just pull them off. You're gonna get them no matter what you do, so when you're done, just pull them off. Over here, here's the piece I dribbled. It's dry. I'm gonna grab the end, hold down my fabric, and just peel it right off. And you can't even tell that it was there. If you had tried to get it while it was still hot, you'd have just ended up with a mess of glue that wouldn't come off because it would be smeared too far down. Again, now I'm gonna drip right there. I'm looking for a hole. I'm gonna stick this flour right in the hole as far as I can get it, and if I can't get it far enough, I'm gonna bend it down so it's the height I want it to be. There we go. And I'm gonna put another one over here. You don't want to try and cut a hole because if you do that, your sweater's gonna unravel and so is your pumpkin. But if you use your fingers to pull that pumpkin apart a little, then you can usually get right in the hole. And I think I'm gonna add 2 more pieces here, and then we will probably be done. So again, I'm cutting it off with just a little bit. Cutting this off with just a little bit. And you don't want to put everything at the same angle exactly, because nature isn't like that. And you want your arrangement to look natural, like it just popped right out of nature. Now I'm going up under these leaves, and I'm probably just going to glue it right up under that leaf, because it's not going to want to go in a hole right there, because I already have a lot of glue there. Okay, now one more. This will be the last one. Again, I'm going up under the flower leaves. I'm probably not going to make it into a hole, but we're going to go up under here and see how close we can get to the stem. That way, for sure, we know that it's being touched to the leaves, to the flower, and it looks like it's coming out by the stem. Now pull off all our greens. Now at this point, you can add a bow if you want to. Some people like to add a bow. I wouldn't mind adding a bow to it, but I think I'll skip that this time. Another time we'll make one with the bow, and you can see what that looks like. So again, you have one sweater sleeve. You have pieces of 2 different bushes or stems. One of them includes the seed pods, so it looks a little more fall. And then we got the bright color. These are probably supposed to be asters. Depending on where you live, your asters are going to bloom in the fall. And the twine that we use to wind around the sweater to make the stem, and 2 zip ties. So your list of supplies is 2 bushes, 1 sweater sleeve, 2 zip ties, your glue gun with a glue stick in it, and some twine. Not the super thin kind of twine, I'll get the word out yet, but you don't want it to be the super thin twine that you might use to tie something off, like trying a flower vine to an arbor or something like that, because that's just going to take forever for you to wind up your stem. This looks a whole lot better, and it goes a whole lot quicker. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy your pumpkin. I'll see you soon.